Hello and thank you for joining us on this edition of Middle East Matters here on France 24. I'm Delano D'Souza filling in for Sanam Chantier. On the show this week, we are turning our attention to Lebanon, a country whose economy has been pushed to the brink of collapse. The Lebanese pound has lost 85% of its value since anti-government protests broke out last October. Decades of government corruption and financial mismanagement has resulted in Lebanon reaching where it has.
In 1990, after 15 years of civil war, Lebanon started digging into debt to rebuild. The strategy drained the public purse. Today, the country's debt is equivalent to roughly 170% of its GDP. Lebanon's economy is mainly based on services, especially banking and tourism. It doesn't produce many goods, so has to import around 4/5 of what it consumes. Last year, it reached a trade deficit of more than $15 billion. The currency is off balance too, with a black market exchange rate much higher than the official peg to the dollar and a reliance on both investment from Arab Gulf states and remittance. In 2014, the war in Syria, political upheaval in the region and plummeting oil prices saw Lebanon's central bank's reserves thinning and its pound began to fall. 4 years on, the banks were capping withdrawals and limiting cash transfers abroad to avoid a huge flight of capital. The COVID-19 pandemic has made dollars even harder to get, accelerating the collapse of the Lebanese pound and with it people's spending power. As of April this year, there are 3 different exchange rates. $1 theoretically gets you just over 1,500 Lebanese pounds from the central bank, whereas it's valued at just under 4,000 by commercial banks, who rarely have the cash to make an exchange anyway. The only option left is the black market, where $1 can go for more than £8,000.
When the anti-government protests broke out last year, people out on the streets said they wanted those in power to look like them. But the power-sharing arrangement in Lebanon is complicated. This as the political structure is divided along sectarian lines.
What makes the Lebanese political system so unique and so particular is that it's not a one-man, one-vote system. It is what we call a consociational democracy. What does that mean? It means that all the positions within the state apparatus, whether the position of president, prime minister, head of the chamber, the seats in parliament, the seats in the government, etc., etc., they're all distributed according to very precise, constitutionally determined sectarian quotas, meaning that the Christians must have their share, the Muslims their share, etc., etc. The first problem is that those sects are going to see or understand the political game as a zero-sum game, and they're going to consider themselves as adversaries and not partners in a national common game. The second thing is that this system enhances massively something called communitarian patronage, meaning that all the leaders of the parties, the different parties, are also communitarian or sectarian patrons who, through their access to state resources, redistribute a lot of services, but also a lot of money to their own communities. So when you are, the average Lebanese person who wants to demonstrate against corruption, against all that political stuff, you have 2 problems. First of all, you have to be able to rely on your compatriots from other communities to back you in that effort. And second, of course, you're going to think twice whether it is better to get rid of all the political system and change it, or keep your leader who keeps, bringing money, services to your community on an everyday basis. So here you have a real choice to make.
Now, as the economic situation worsens on the ground, the engine of Lebanon's economy, its middle class, is being wiped out. Staples like beef and chicken have gotten too expensive, and the price of everyday commodities like laundry detergent and diapers have become unaffordable. The economic realities on the ground have resulted in people going online to barter.
Rana and Hagop live in a working-class area in northeast Beirut. They need a new refrigerator, but with the severe inflation that's hit the country in recent months, the young couple can't afford one.
في أغراض عندك بالبيت إذا انتزعوا ما عم تقدري تجيبي غيرهم ولا عم تقدري تصلحيه لأنه سوق السوداء عم بيحسبوا لك الدولار كتير اوفر. اذا بدي صلحه عم بيقولوا لي $100، بس اذا بدي اجي ادفع على اللبناني عم بيقولوا لي مليون، مليون و200.
So, like many Lebanese families, Rana and Hagop decided to make a trade. They hoped to exchange their dishwasher for a second-hand fridge.
الجلاية منا كتير بريوريتي انه خليها بالبيت واستعملها ومصروفها كمان زيادة، وانا بحاجة لبراد واكيد ما فيها نقعد بالبيت بلا براد، انه هذا شيء كتير اساسي ومش قادرين نشتري براد، فقلت انه بعمل مقايضة ببدل الجلاية بالبراد بالشيء انه انا كتير عايزته.
The couple decided to try their luck on the online platform LEBANONS. Started several months ago by Hala Dahrouj, the page has become irreplaceable in the country. In just a year, inflation has risen by 55%, and many internet users are now resorting to a barter system to get hold of basic necessities and even food.
We just want to create a safety net for Lebanese people to be able to survive during this harsh crisis without any real government that is supporting them. There's a lot of injustice and there's a lot of unfair treatment, and the society in itself is creating this safety net to save each other, because we don't want any Lebanese to sleep hungry.
The price of powdered milk has risen by 69% compared with last year, and nappy prices have doubled or even tripled. For now, Rana and Hagop are still managing to buy what they need for their 2-year-old daughter, but they're aware the situation could get even worse.
بدنا نبدل شيء ضمن الحفاظ، انه اكيد بدي اعمله، انه بدي بدله بشيء، انه بس تأمن لها الحفاظ لبنتي، بعمل مستحيل.
Thousands of Lebanese families like Rana and Hagop have seen a drastic drop in their purchasing power over the last few months. Lebanon's government has re-entered negotiations with the IMF, but as yet seems unwilling or unable to implement the reforms needed to access international aid.
To talk more about the situation on the ground in Lebanon, we can speak to Gael Matar, political activist and founder of the NGO Hadak Min Baid, which translates to close to you from afar. Gael, thank you very much for joining us here on the program today. Could you tell me why you started your NGO and why you chose that name?
Basically, it was amidst the COVID-19 pandemic that has hit hard an already crumbling economy in Lebanon, that 8 of my childhood friends and I came together and made up this idea of helping out families and individuals in need in Lebanon by specifically distributing to them food boxes. We specifically chose that name. First, it was it really translated into social distancing. It was close to you from a distance. But now that name really means translates into another thing. Really, it's especially now. It's like, let's say you're in France, but you really want to help someone, but you can really be next to someone from a distance.
So how does it work exactly?
Okay, so basically we have a form that is found on our Facebook and Instagram page. That form, donors can access that form. They simply write their names, their phone numbers, and there's a list of food items that they can tick, and they can choose which food items they'd like to donate. When they submit the form, we have outreach officers that would contact these donors. They would go and pick up the donations from the specified location, of course, while taking the utmost safety precautions. Then we package the food items and we deliver them to the families in need.
Gail, I want to ask you, how has your life changed, your family's life changed since October last year?
Well, actually, it's been really a tough year for me as an individual, for Lebanon, and for all the people in Lebanon as well. It's now with the downfall and the crisis of the currency in Lebanon, and with the October Revolution, nothing's the same. Especially now, COVID-19 pandemic has made the economy even worse and has made the situation in Lebanon much tougher.
You know, Gail, the Lebanese have been resilient. They've been through so much for so many decades. They've been proud of their food. They're proud of their culture, their way of life. Where is that pride today?
Exactly. So let me say something. Lebanese people have always been resilient. They've passed through war, and now we're passing through this huge turmoil. So we are still resilient. And how it shows today is that we refuse to give up, regardless of how tough it gets. A small initiative like this one is a small example of how individualistic approach can do wonders for some specific individuals in Lebanon. So might I say, if you can't just overthrow your government, for example, you can overthrow the effects of that government by these small individualistic approaches that can change lives. And Hadak min Abaid is one example.
Gail, finally, you're 23 years old, you're still young. What do you see for your future? Do you see your future in Lebanon or outside?
So I'm going to be honest with you. Many Lebanese people nowadays, especially the youth, are searching for a ticket out of Lebanon. So honestly, I don't blame them. And let me tell you this, let this be a message to all the Lebanese people, especially the youth in Lebanon who are now feeling hopeless. You may want to start outside. You may want to plant your roots in a country that you feel you're more appreciated. And you are entitled to, and you have the right to do that. However, always keep in mind, because this is how I think, and this is my personal opinion and my personal thought, always keep in mind that we will get Lebanon back one day. In one way or another, Lebanon will be led by people who are just like you and me. So this is how I see my future. I don't know if my future is going to be outside of Lebanon or it's going to be in Lebanon, but regardless of that, I'm still going to have the thought that Lebanon can be better, even if it's a day that's very far away from today.
Gail Matar, thank you very much for the work you're doing and for speaking to us here on France 24. That's it for this edition of Middle East Matters. From all of us on the team, thank you very much for watching.
French colonists arrived in the Ivory Coast in the early 20th century, but when they departed, many left behind mixed-race children who were torn from their mothers and set apart from society. Now many are exploring their roots and looking for answers as well as national recognition.
Je me considère comme une victime de la colonisation.
Nous étions pupilles de l'État, donc comment pouvons-nous ne pas être français? C'est une aberration.
In Reporters this week, find out about the extraordinary fate of these orphans of the nation.
Reporters Plus on France 24 and France24.com.